I always say, we are who we are from our past experiences. And so as a child, really the only way you learn is the images that you see around you and the words that you hear. And those two, entities really mold the person. And so obviously you would have grown up in a scarcity mindset. Like there's never enough. Dishonesty, disrespectful, discrimination, detached, dismissive. That's it. I'm done. Relationships can be messy. Are you having trouble with your personal or professional relationship? Not to worry. As a relationship therapist and coach for over 25 years, I have a lot to share. And so will my guest experts. Let's get smarter in our business and personal lives so we can be our best selves. Now, let's get on with the show. Welcome to this episode of Mixing Business with Pleasure, where I take you behind the scenes of my recent guest appearances on two fantastic podcasts. Over the last few months, I had the honor of joining Daniela Wolf on The Best D Life with Daniela and John Brink on his inspiring show. In my conversation with Daniela, we delved into the critical importance of cultivating a strong mindset before committing time to any endeavor. It was an enlightening discussion that I'm excited to share with you. Next, I had the pleasure of speaking with John Brink, an 85-year-old entrepreneur and prolific author. We explored the nuances of relationships, particularly concerning men's mental health, and emphasized the unwavering pursuit of one's dreams. Get ready for an episode filled with insights and inspiration from these incredible conversations.
Today, on the brink, have a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Luella Young, and Luella is interesting. She studied in the functional medicine, certified practitioner, and she in particular specializes in interaction and communication and unconventional therapist, as she qualifies herself. I just want you to hear and listen to people that we interview on relationships and interaction, both in business but in life in general, because one of the most important parts of life in all levels is interaction and communications. Dr. Luella, can I call you Luella?
Absolutely. Yeah, please do.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I think it's great that you just brought up. It really all comes down to relationships, because people come to see me for various reasons. A lot of people individual consults because they're struggling with something in their life, and I don't think they always realize that a relationship's going to come up in our conversations, but it ultimately always does, right? So many people that come to see me, and I just say for individual purposes, maybe, finding your passion, living your dream, as your book is titled, they might be struggling with careers, they might be struggling with whatever it might be, but it's always like, I have to always say, how about your relationships? And if their current intimate relationships are fine, then we ultimately at some point get into their parental relationships, right? Like how were they brought up, right? It always comes back to their childhood in some way as well. So we have to realize relationships are key. And I also want to, mention as well that it doesn't mean you need to be an extrovert. I myself love my alone time. I would definitely consider myself an introvert. You mentioned how beautiful British Columbia is. Yeah, I second that. And but like part of the way I find joy is to be out in nature alone and to be physical, you know. But when I'm inside, I love to write. I love to learn, and so, but you can still have great relationships, even if you do consider yourself a little bit introverted. So,
I agree with all of that, Luella. And in fact, I'm very similar to what you say. I'm an extrovert, appear to be, but I'm very much an introvert as well. I like to be alone. I spend a lot of time alone, and I'm at peace being alone. And in terms of relationships, correct me if I'm wrong, you've done this for more than 25 years and obviously have seen all situations all over the place, is that the first thing that is very, very critical to somebody is that to find that relationship with themselves and be at peace with who you are. And it took me a long, long time to get there. Not until, and we'll probably talk about that. I'm nearly 84, and it probably took me till I was 62 when I got diagnosed with ADHD, until I understood that who am I? And then from that point forward, I started unfolding my world and then became an author, as you already noted. And I'm working on my sixth book, actually. I've written four. I'm working on my fifth one and sixth one. And then, obviously, I'm a speaker and on-demand keynote speaker. And then I love podcasting. And so because it's the new media that there we are sitting here. Where are you located now, Luella?
Winnipeg.
You are in Winnipeg, in Canada, obviously, but quite a ways away from where we are in central British Columbia. And there we are sitting having this discussion. And as we do that, we know already that we have tens of thousands of people from around the world watching us. And it is a media that is just at the very beginning. It will go much, much further than that. And the issues of communications, understanding oneself, including myself, and going through self-confidence and all the things around it, is very, very common around the world. And I love what you are doing, is because with the expertise that you have, and then now also, as you say in your bio, that you started, your podcasting a while ago. I can see you're at 130 or so, but mixing business with pleasure, but finding that media for you and me in particular, of sharing with others the things that we have learned through experience and from our backgrounds, it's hugely important for people, not only here, not regionally, not in our country, not in North America, but around the world. There is a desperate need for this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm the same way. I'm in love with podcasting. In fact, if I don't know if I could choose, I'd probably do this only, rather than seeing clients sometimes. But I find a lot of joy in both, and I think the reason why I find a lot of joy in both, like first of all, with podcasting, it's free information. I myself listen to so many podcasts, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I can be hiking, I can be biking, I can be listening to this, I can be driving. It's like I don't even listen to audiobooks anymore because it's amazing. And but also I think people have to realize, if there's someone out there listening right now and maybe not so happy with their lives, I think they need to ask themselves, and I think too, John, you would agree because of the title of your book, but it's sort of like it's yes, it's you might be passionate about certain things. Like I'm passionate about a lot of things, but it's really serving others, isn't it, John? Like
That's the
if
question.
you can serve others and be passionate about what you're doing, it's like it's the magic sauce. And like because I think that is truly what brings you happiness. And then if people are struggling, with depression or anxiety right now, and they're kind of going, why do I feel this way? Just like actually stop and ask yourself, like, are you on some sort of me narrative? Like, is it all about me? My sorrow, me comparing myself to you. Like it's sort of like they're on this me narrative. Woe is me, why me? And I think if you see that in yourself, that's a big clue to like happiness is around the corner if you just start thinking about what maybe someone in your life needs. How can you be in service to others? Because I know that every person has amazing skill, amazing talents.
Especially.
And it could be that your service in the world is just being a great partner. That
That's it.
your partner, and maybe it's a woman, is very financially secure, and I don't know, like so maybe like she needs you as a soundboard each night. Like
Yeah,
she depends on you.
exactly.
Um, I mean, I just had a session before coming in here, and it was a woman, and she said, she was kind of sad because her husband was sort of letting himself go, like a little bit physically. And she says, when I married him, like he loved his work. The work wasn't the easiest, but he did love his work, and it was very physical. But she says, he would get up in the morning and go to gym before beginning his work, and she said, I love that about him because I'm not like that. And I needed that. I needed that accountability partner. I needed that motivation. And I'm like right now I'm mourning the loss, of that. And but I taught her and I guided her to like the way you deliver that message to him would not be, you know what, like your guts hanging out now. You're moping around the house. You never get out of the house or whatever. It would be like, no, the way I just described it to you right now. Like I need you, and this is
Yeah,
why I need you. Like I love this about you.
yeah,
Please bring it back.
yeah.
It's totally two different messages, right?
Or find somebody that can identify it so that they can, rather saying directly to him, this is what I don't like, but circle around it, and then you will get to the answer. I call it a superpower.
Oh, for
And
sure.
so a lot of people say to me, how do you do all the things that you're doing? I said, it's ADHD.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting you bring this up too, because the same client, the woman that I was speaking about, she owns her own business. And she suffers from ADHD. And there's something personal with me about that as well, which I might mention later. But she said how she was camping. She took a week off just lately, and she was camping with her family. And she says, "Well, I decided just not to take Vyvanse, which is one of the medications for ADHD." She says, "I just I thought I'm just going to lay off for a week. I'm vacationing. What's there's no need." And she goes, "Oh, but Luella, all the ideas that were coming in my mind was just not stopping." And I'm thinking this is great. Like this is
Yeah,
what a lot of
that's a good
people.
thing.
It's a good thing, yeah. And she mentioned a couple of the different opportunities that she has in business right now. And I said, "This is fantastic." And she goes, "But Luella, now I'm home, and I need to make some decisions, and I feel just overwhelmed." And I sort of gave her the steps of how you can begin to do that now. Because I myself too, John. I mean, I was diagnosed like borderline in January just of this year because I kept on having these clients come to me all kind of saying I must have AD, like adults, I must have ADHD, and I'm just like, oh my god, people, like, no, it's just it's all the online distraction. It's like the world moving 2,000 like whatever like beats per minute. Like it's just sort of it's all of that. Please do not just jump on medication. Get properly diagnosed. But then it really started making me think like I think I have the same thing
Yeah.
because John, I'm the same way. Like I have thousands of different business ideas coming to me all the time. And it's a curse and a gift at the same time, right? It truly is. But you know what? I call them workarounds. Like I personally do not take any medication because I did try actually Vyvanse myself, and it had strange side effects. And I just thought I don't want to done this. Like I don't. But for some people, I think it is a game changer for them. So if you are one of those people and you really see the difference, my God, go for it. Um,
I
John, you want to say something? Yeah.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is that I don't take medicine either for it. At one
Okay.
point, I forget now when it was, 2003 or something like that, about 20 years ago, I said to my doc, "You think I should take medicine because everybody else is
Yeah.
talking about the?" Yeah. So he said, "Well, we can try Adderall," and I have no idea what it is. So so he got me a prescription for 100 pills Adderall in 2003. So I took them with me, and I think I took 3 pills, and they didn't do nothing for me. So they're still in my drawer. I look at it as 2003, so I don't take anything. But obviously, I'm not a medical doctor, or I don't give advice. I simply say what I do. I don't use
Yeah.
it, and I look at it not as a liability. I look at it as an asset, and
Yeah.
I know I could not have done what I do if it
Yeah.
were not for that. And
Yeah.
it's not a distraction. It is, in my opinion, potentially a superpower if you know what to do with it. Hence, that's why I wrote the book about it. Now, the other one, I just want to, for your client that said that they were too old for whatever, I have to show you one more book. I don't want to be you in my books, but this is the last one that I wrote. It just came out less than a week ago. Is Living Young, Dying Old, and that is me at 83, 84. So what I say is that you can do anything. Everything is possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that to me is important. And I'm going to send you copies of this, of all 3 or 4 of those books, and I'll sign them for you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Because I have a mother that's turned 85 last week. And, and unfortunately she broke her hip in January. And so
Oof.
she's, recuperating. And she has a bit of a, it's hard some days, right? She's not, she was very active, and she has her limitations right now. And, yeah, no, I want to give her that book because I think it's easy to sort of somehow get down on yourself, right? And saying, "Oh, I am getting old," but it's mind over matter, right? All the time.
I'm
Yeah.
going to be 84, Luella, in November. I'm still
Okay.
very, very
Yeah.
active. I go to the gym. I'm the
Yes.
oldest competitive bodybuilder in North America. And
Wow.
yes,
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there are some videos of me that are on johnabrink.com and on some of the other media,
Hmm.
where I'm staying active. But everything is possible, and but for me, what's important, and that's the point that I was going to make to you, is that it took me till I was 62 years old when I got diagnosed as with ADHD officially.
Yeah.
I already knew
Yeah.
that I was when I saw this book and read that
Yeah.
book, and until I put it all together in terms of, and so I started then really as becoming much more active in public speaking, becoming much more active in terms of knowing me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
I say it is so important that I cannot help others unless I understand me. And then once
Yes.
I understand me and then started realizing how common all of this is and the challenges that others have, and then wanting to give back in a way, then speaking about the things that, not drawing attention to who I am, but just as saying that if I can do it, virtually anybody can do it. Coming out of the Second World War, struggling with the inner child, for one, it took me till I was well into my 50s and counseling, where we had some issues between myself, my then still in the early stages with my wife, and then we went to counseling, and then the counselor during one of the meetings said, I think I want to have a discussion with John alone about the inner child. And then both of them, we both agreed, my wife and myself, and because I didn't even know what it was. And so I
Yeah. So
recognized that,
important.
and you're very, very familiar with all of
Hmm.
that. So when I came out of the Second World War with that part, then seeing far too much that I shouldn't have seen, PTSD was part of it and remained part of it. And then also within the family, and a lot of families that were exposed to the war years and everything, that a lot of people respectfully may think that if there is war, after the war is over, everything goes back to normal. It simply doesn't. It may
Hmm.
take a generation, it may take several generations, and in some
Yeah.
cases, virtually never, right?
Yeah. 100%. I always say, we are who we are from our past experiences. And so as a child, really the only way you learn is the images that you see around you and the words that you hear. And those two, entities really, really mold the person. And so obviously you would have grown up in a scarcity mindset. Like there's never enough, there's never enough. And also I don't feel safe because I mean, and like, yeah. And so, but bringing it again back to ADHD, I just one other thing I want to say that it sometimes it saddens me that people have to hear a diagnosis before they realize they can give themselves permission to be who they are. Because really, John, when you think of it, it was almost like a salvation in a way when you receive that diagnosis. It's sort of like, oh my God, there's a reason why I am or I behave the way I am. And you know what? The other thing, it's okay to be who I am and act the way I am. I say it's sad because why do we need to hear some formal diagnoses before we give ourselves permission as a human being to just be who we are inherently, and one other thing before I stop is it's like obviously not all of our behaviors, are potentially maybe good behaviors, good towards others. So if we have those inherent behaviors that are not, you know, like wishing good of another person, in other words, like not loving, then okay, those behaviors, you don't get to just be you and be okay. Like we have to look at that and say, which behaviors do I want to keep and which behaviors do I need to get some help on here?
I love what you're saying, Luella, is that that's precisely why I have and feel I have an obligation to not only write about it, but speak about it. And so I love to speak on the topic. I'm very open about it, how I feel about it. I give my background about it. And there is no reason. I think there is still an element of stigma, not to the extent that it was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, but there still is. And that's why I speak about it and saying that in my mind, it is a superpower and to be open about it. I can say that to you and the other tens of thousands of people that are watching us. Say,
Yeah,
keep it
yeah.
confidential. No, I'm just joking. Is that I'm a good speaker. So, and I when I give presentation, I give them this passion. And so that by the time I'm done, they will always remember I was there. But a lot of times also, I'm not only talking about ADHD, I'm talking about business opportunity, all the other
Yeah.
things, self-confidence and all those other things. But a lot of times when I talk about ADHD, by the time I'm done with it, a lot of people in the room said, damn, I wish I had it too.
Well, yeah, no, of course, but there are overwhelming parts too, right? Like, I mean, I think we also have to, like, we learn certain things. I think we sometimes, because we have all these ideas and we can be distracted in that sense, is that sometimes time management can be difficult for people, right? I know that's myself. I had to really dial down on my time management, and I've created a program for others who need to do the same because that was a game changer for me. Like once I kind of like took my time back and was much more strategic, because otherwise, I think what a lot of people with ADHD feel is that, like, quite simply overwhelmed. Like just
Yeah.
like my client said, it's sort of okay. Now I came back from my week off, but now I'm in my office and I'm just like, I know I feel this often. I'm just staring, going, okay, what do I do first? Because I just, yeah. So, yeah, I think it's very important.
During some of the presentations, when we have Q&As, people say to me, so tell me about, you failed grade 7, you're very public about it, 3 times. Does it still bother you? I said, yeah, it does. It bothers me immensely. I should have quit earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So just tongue
yeah,
in cheek.
yeah,
So what I'm saying is
yeah,
my learning school was different than others. And but
yeah,
what it has
yeah,
done is make me successful in business, very
yeah,
successful, more than others. And I
yeah,
have the ability to look forward and plan forward that other people don't do. The other part is, with all due respect to my fellows that have university degrees and have taught about management of companies, uh, I've done my own, and what I usually do when I'm involved in other places where there is a lot of people that are professionals in those areas, I make them feel uncomfortable because I always go outside the box and say, what happens if we do this, that, and the other things that's one of the things that I have, and that has served me well in
yeah.
my businesses and obviously in some of the other things that I do.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like we all have hidden talents that, we need to celebrate ourselves a lot more and give ourselves grace, give ourselves credit. Just before this episode too, I had a couple of clients, um, even though I know it's earlier there for you in BC, but it was a man, and he's very good in business. It has nothing to do with ADHD, but like talk about your inner child. Like he had to leave his family at 15. Like he's a young man. He's only 35 or whatever, but like just circumstances he needed to leave. And he did what he needed to do to become financially secure, right? So he basically kind of like what you said too. You put your head down and you laugh at fear, and you just go forward because he had to feel safe. He had to be financially secure because no one else was going to take care of him. Just like
No.
what you did when you arrived in Montreal, it's sort of like I'm going to ask thousands of questions, and I'm just going to, go forward and not look back. And by the way, my dad did the same thing also at 25, but that's another story that I can share with you later. But in other words, but he struggles right now, and it's more. He's like a man that's very emotional. A lot of people think that men aren't emotional, and in fact, it's like one of the number one complaints women come to me with, that they're not emotional. But men, okay, women, who's ever listening, of course they're emotional. Of course they have feelings. Of course they have, like, of course they do. It's just might be a little bit harder for them to express because it's definitely like, linear with, I'm tough, I'm strong, big boys don't cry. And I'm going to look weak if I express my emotions. Um, and it's funny in this guy's case, he's a little bit the opposite. He expresses his emotions, his sadness, his needs very easily. But that can cause problems because it seems to me that women can take advantage of that as well. Certain personalities, kind of see that in a man and they use it, to their detriment, let's just say. And so, it's like we need all of it. Like we need to express our emotions, but not too much. And we need to be strong in other times, and just like I'm helping this guy, like, you know, like direct him a little bit more, just sort of like, I know you can work hard. That's not the issue, but you got to give yourself grace and like heal the inner child. As you said, like you don't have to do or be anything to be worthy of love, because I think he's operating now that I need to, um, you know, I don't know, taking all the wounded out there and make them better. Like he has a huge heart. And if any women out there are listening right now and they want to know who he is, I can set him, because like he just has a tendency to like, Anyway, I'll let you speak.
I agree with all of that, Luella. Is that for a lot of men, they feel that if they show emotion or being vulnerable, that shows weakness. It doesn't. It does just do the opposite. And so that does not mean that I look at myself. I can be very hard nosed in business because that's my job. And although I
Yeah.
may own the company, that's my job. But at the same time, do I feel compassion for situations, may it be animals, may it be people, or not to be taken advantage of? I
Yeah.
developed a nose for that and have paid the price to a certain extent, but it doesn't bother me. It will not
Yeah.
change me in terms of saying that I will be, that's me.
Yeah.
But it's again coming to when we started our conversation and saying what is important to, at least from my perspective, then it took me a long time to figure out who is me. And it
Hmm.
was probably not until I got the diagnosis in 1962, or when I was 62, is saying that, yes, the diagnosis was ADHD, no question about that. I kind of knew it 4 or 5 years before because I had looked at it. But how do I put it all together? And then how did the dreams all happen? The liberation by the Canadians, then wanting to go to Canada to prove to me, but also to go to the land of my heroes, to prove to me, to build the lumber mills. I built several of them in other companies. But even then still, I had not reconciled it. then starting to
Yeah.
write my books and podcasting. And so it was evolving at,
Yeah.
so when I'm saying to people that say to me, well, I'm too old for that. I can't do that. Well, look at this one. Then
Yeah.
saying that everything is possible. And so what I'm looking at now is being very active on podcasting and looking even at potentially starting a platform.
Oh, wonderful. Gee, yeah, I'll have to follow you because no, I just I love it. Your zest for life and for that light is not dimming anytime soon. And I think your message is very, very important that anybody can do it at any time of their life. It's never ever too late. And but John, you probably realize that had you kind of healed that inner child even earlier, like I mean, it's sort of given yourself, I say, forgiveness, grace, for being who you are, and you don't need to do it in this prove it sort of energy. You don't need to prove anything,
No,
in your life. You're
no.
doing it just simply for the good of others, for your family, for your welfare. But I mean, in a very humanitarian, way as well, respecting the environment and like I mean, you mentioned animals, but I'm sure you also live in accordance to your values, meaning that you have employees, you're running, one business, multi businesses, but you have compassion for your employees. You treat people well. Um, are you still in your marriage? Like how?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been
Like so,
married for well over 40 years, and
well,
so
look
actually,
at
what I
that.
do, you can relate to that because you're in Winnipeg. So I'm in Prince George. So usually, what I do Friday afternoon today I go to at 1:30 or so. I fly to directly to Victoria. We have a place in North Saanich, and we have a
Wow.
farm there, and we have 7 horses. Both my wife, myself, ride English dressage, and then it gives me an opportunity to kind of work on projects like books and other things that I'm
Yeah.
doing, and so really enjoy life, and yeah, that works good. But the thing that I believe is important to me is that not for the purpose of proving to anybody else, but I'm at peace with who I am,
Yeah.
and that and I'm at peace with that I was not as successful in academically, but all but it makes it interesting for others to say, well, I hear that so often, I can't do this because of that or this or that, and I said, no, you can do anything you want to do, but you have to first come at peace with who are you. And that does
Mhm.
not mean I don't have university degrees, so therefore I no, or I'm too heavy, or I weigh too much, and I'm not going to go to the gym because all the people that are there are 20 years old, and I'm already 48, and don't look good. And I said, no, no,
Mhm.
no, no,
Yeah.
so not
Yeah.
necessary because I want to live till I'm 120.
Good. Oh, wow. Well, I'm definitely like speaking with you again then, because no, you're right. Like, I mean, we can all we can always be better, but like, I mean, the way we are right now is just perfect. And I love what you said there. I just accepting who I am without all, the accolades is enough. Like for myself too, John, like, did I need all these certifications and degrees to actually be doing the work I'm doing right now really well? No. Everything I learn is really from working with people,
Mhm.
and understanding how people behave. And so, no, I mean, we can so easily get down on ourselves, but you guys, everybody, I'll let you know that before I go, like as a therapist, I hear all different stories. and everyone's story is important, and there is suffering in the world, but there's also a lot of joy, and there's still a lot
No
of
question.
joy for you to come, you
I
know?
agree.
Yeah. So,
Now, I'm squeezing you for time because I promised you I would let you out and we are already 3 minutes over. So I can say, Luella, this was Dr. Luella Young. This was an amazing conversation. We have to stay in touch. I'm going to send you my 4 books. I'm going to sign them for you. And for all those people watching us, and Luella on her podcast, and the name of it is Mixing Business with Pleasure, for us to have these interesting conversations around the world with different people. Subscribe to our podcast, share it with others, like it, comment on our podcast, and we'll have many, many more podcasts like this and other topics.
yeah, 100%.
Luella, Dr. Luella Young, it was a pleasure. Let's make sure we stay in touch.
100%. I will definitely do that, my fellow Dutchman.
Yeah. Thanks, Luella.
Hi, this is Daniela with Bestie Life, the podcast. And today I'm so excited for you to meet Luella Young. She is a psychotherapist, functional medicine practitioner, as well as a dating and relationship coach. And when we talk about relationships, it's not always about with other people. A lot of times our relationships in general, whether it's at work or with our family or a partner, has everything to do with how our relationship with ourself is and being able to work on that. And so I'm so excited to dive into all of this today. So thank you so much, Luella, for joining us today.
Well, you are most welcome. You make a very good point, and it's what I really try to promote is the fact that before, we can really relate to another person, we need to be able to relate to ourselves very well. And so, for example, what I've been really noticing is, you could almost, because I'm also like all about making it simple. I don't want to make things complicated, and what I'm noticing is that it's really one or two things that could be working against you. If your relationships, if your life, like your career goals or what have you, are not turning out to be what you expected them to be, then it's usually related to one or two things, or like I said, a combination. And these are, okay, this is not a surprise, but I'm telling you, it's so true, is low self-worth. And not having enough self-compassion. The other thing is a little bit too much, or maybe a lot of, woe is me? Why is this always happening to me? Sort of that victim's mindset, right? Because and the thing is that it's really hard to catch it. Like, I think there's probably many of your listeners that are listening and kind of going, well, yeah, I know that doesn't work. I know we need to be accountable, but it's the self-awareness that's such an important skill to be able to catch these thoughts that, really we're talking like a millisecond of the thought, going by, and you giving it attention. And it's really easy to make that all of a sudden become an excuse and an identity of why your world is the way it is, why your life is the way it is. And I also want to, just note that in our world nowadays with social media and this ability to see what not just our neighbor is doing, but the entire world, let alone all your friends or your colleagues, within seconds of opening up your phone, it's so easy to compare yourself with somebody else. And that's why all of a sudden we fall into this, well, why do they have that and I don't have that? Or why can't I look like that and they have that? Especially with all the filters and the,
Right.
happy days.
Well, and if half of that's even real, and this definitely, I think, ties in so much of what you've been doing even up till now as a mindset kind of focus and everything like that, because it is, even though it's about our relationship, like you said, that minuscule, that quick thought impacts all of that.
Yeah. It's like, that's what I mean about self-awareness. Like, it's catching it and then kind of going, but is that true? Is that really true? It's like I'm saying, this is not easy work because we're conditioned this way from such a young age. And I know, probably a lot of your listeners have heard this over and over, but just myself as a therapist, as a coach, and doing this work as long as I have, really myself, I've been really working on myself lately and to be more self-aware and to catch these limiting beliefs that come up. It's just like, you really do need to write your own story. If it's something you really want, but you think it's not available to you, it's telling a new story.
Yeah. And definitely, to see how that relationship with yourself that you're talking about, because so many times people focus on, like you said, that external thing they see online, whether it's their relationship with others, with friends, as with their business, with their job, with food, with all sorts of things. How you think about yourself is going to affect all those relationships. And so to definitely scale it back from that end result that everybody focuses their actions on, and to bring it back to that internal voice, that internal narrative, like you said, those limiting beliefs. I just love the way that it's the starting point for your success in all of your areas, not just one area.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that I'm also a dating coach and relationship coach, and I honestly I just as much as couples come to me and say they need help, and the number one complaint is of course communication.
Mm-hmm.
Like I explained to them that number one, I'd rather see you as an individual if you want to work on your relationship, and it's because of what we just discussed. But number two, you know what? Communication is really just a skill.
Mm-hmm.
That's super simple for me to teach you. I mean, I have a lot of great scripts. I can teach you tone. I can teach you body language. I can teach you to deliver with care and compassion. And so but all couples still say, we have a problem communicating. We just can't communicate. And it's like that. If you think that's the basis of your marriage breakdown, no, I mean, you have to look deeper inside and think, who do I need to become in order to better my relationship? Yeah, not just with my significant other, but with colleagues, everyone.
Yeah. Well, and so much too, when you talk about communication, you got me thinking as I'm sitting here listening. So much of what we communicate is that nonverbal part. And that's the inner part, how we think of ourselves. We're not going to share it. We're not going to talk about it, but it's going to come out in all of our actions, all those nonverbal things. And so when they say they're having problems communicating, it's probably they're communicating all these inner demons within themselves that if they haven't addressed, that's why the demons are in the relationship. It's because it's coming out from them.
Right. Which we often call triggers, right? Like you hit some deeper wound in me. And that's why, I feel like this is just not going to work. This is, we're just not meant for each other. But really you just hit one of my wounds. So, and another thing that I hear, I guess other people talk about quite a bit, like whether it's on podcasts or other relationship coaches is, okay, so let's say you're trying to communicate with your partner, and this is very typical. It's a woman speaking to a man, and a woman's just sort of maybe wanting to vent, and the man's trying to solve her problems, right? I'm sure you've heard that on before. But and so I heard someone, and many people say you have to sort of set the foundation for the conversation. You need, it was good advice. And I have given out this advice before, but the advice was, set the tone with your conversations with your partner by saying something like, simplify it by saying, is this a conversation like a help, a hug, or a hear conversation? Meaning I need your help. I actually need you to solve a problem, or I need you just to listen to me, just to hear, no comment necessary, or a hug, or I'm really hurting right now and I need some emotional support. And I'm thinking it's, you're probably hearing that going, that's really good. And it is, but at the same time, it's almost kind of complicated. just think of it. At the end of the day, you're probably in your home office. You come out and you walk into maybe the kitchen or whatever, and you're like, everything's kind of coming at you. You're not pausing and thinking, okay, wait a minute, is this a help, hug? And okay, honey, it's a hug, and this is what it's sort of like. It's like life is moving way too fast.
Yeah.
For that, right? So I like to see it instead of like, let's just pause and like before, I mean, I'm quite impulsive and stuff like that. So instead of like, right away wanting to say something, just maybe pause and say, how can I say this with compassion and with kindness? Maybe that makes you reset and kind of go, well, maybe I won't talk about me. Maybe I'll ask this person in the other room how their day is going.
Right.
Or maybe I see my husband, cooking something in a certain way and I'm like, oh my God, like, oh, so maybe, like, we'll just let me correct him. And really it's like, that's not what he needs. It's sort of like, and that's what I mean. Like sometimes we think really good intentions, like, oh, I'm going to help by commenting on this is not the right way. But we got to realize that's a bit of an ego thing.
Mm-hmm.
The ego often gets in the way of being kind and compassionate
with ourselves and with everybody else.
Exactly. Yeah. It's noticing, my pain right now that I'm feeling. Again, am I making it all about me?
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's that comparison, that woe is me, that a bit of that egocentric, the world revolves around me, and stepping out of that and reminding ourselves, like, I'm reminded of it every single day, how many people are suffering in this world. And it's really easy to step into like, I'm the only one suffering right now.
And like you said, back to that social media comment, everyone posts their highlight reel. It looks like everyone's having the best time, the best life, the best relationships, the best career, 6-7 figures, all that kind of stuff. And that's so not the case. And once we let go of, I heard a quote once that said, comparison is the thief of joy. And
yes.
I think if we let go of that comparison, we allow so much to come in.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I feel like that if someone were to ask, what worked for you really well, Luella, it's like starting my day off. And I'm sure this has been said before too, but like gratitude. Well, first of all, silence. I love just sitting silence and first thing in the morning. I realize not everybody's granted that, like, especially in your 40s. Like I think about my kids being young then, and, you're just like, you both feet hit the ground and you're it's go. But I mean, if you can cultivate, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes alone with your coffee or with your tea or with your water, whatever it is, and being a little bit reflective. And I like writing. You can think about, some things you're grateful for, or even just waking up in your bed and laying there for an extra 30 seconds and thinking what you're grateful for. Like the other day, I think it was yesterday, I woke up and, my eyes just like the window. The first thing I saw was my bedroom window. And outside my window, all I saw was green. And I was like, thank goodness for my vision, because it just was a sign of summer and growth. And it was just like, yeah. And
it's those little moments too. It's not, everyone thinks it's the big things, the trips, the promotions, whatever, the cars, the things. But like you said, it's those little moments of gratitude, that greenery, that warmth, that summer, all those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I love how you said too, just starting your day, even with your coffee, your tea, I love when I make air pop popcorn, just sitting and letting like kind of the steam come on me and smelling it. And it's like 30 seconds, but it's mine,
Exactly. Yeah. It's grabbing all those little things. Like I say, especially, I just think the 40s, like I'm 56. And so looking back in my 40s, unfortunately, I feel like I don't have a lot of memory of it. And I know it's because I was like one of those, felt like I was super mom, doing everything, running a private practice, like doing all the things, thinking I'm just like nailing life. And believe me, I just, if I would have given, first of all, the rest I deserved, like, and so because I know sleep really consolidates memory. So right there, I'm kind of going, that's probably a good reason why I don't have very much memory, because I, probably 5.5, 6 hours sleep. And I know now that was not enough. And then also that pausing, like I mentioned in the morning, it just lets you, it lets those thoughts come up and you can let them go, but at least it gives the mind that time to like, yeah, process those thoughts. And believe me, when I do that in the morning, it is a me narrative at first. It's like, am I going to be able to do this? What's coming up? And then after a bit of time passes, then I kind of sink into that contemplative, reflective, meditative thought, you can call it as well, and it's just sort of like now my body is relaxed. I can feel my body. You like get into your body. Is your body all relaxed right now? Do the deep breathing. And I don't think people give that the airtime it deserves.
Yeah. Or the credit for how huge an impact simple little actions like that can have, just those moments. I love everything you've shared when it comes to communication styles, sharing how to start small little practices to be able to focus on your relationship with yourself before you put that out there and things like that. And just, looking at whether you're dating, whether you're in a relationship, in whatever circumstance, all of these tools that you've shared today are going to come in so helpful in strengthening all of those types of relationships with adults, what you're modeling for your kids if you're a parent, like just all of it. So where can people find you, Luella? How can they work with you?
Oh, well, I mean, just Google my name and my website will come up. So it's Luella. And I know there's not very many Luellas out there, and Jonk. It's a Dutch name. So yeah, and I'm on social media, and that's also my handle, Luella Jonk. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
And all those links will be live in the show notes below. So thank you so much, Luella. I loved all the insights and kind of just nuggets of wisdom that you shared with us today. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. It was fun.
Thanks so much again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know any questions or comments that you have. Also, if you can please leave an Apple 5-star review so that this episode can be shared with more women. There's 2 quotes that I love. Alone we may be strong, but together we are stronger, as well as when women support each other, incredible things happen. So let's be stronger and incredible together, as well as maybe just have some fun along the way. Thanks so much and talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode. Remember that you can watch the full episode on YouTube, where I plan to hang out the most. Your feedback and suggestions for future guests are incredibly valuable to me, so please don't hesitate to post a comment. You are an integral part of this journey.